Welcome to Catalyst, a program about people, ideas, issues, and conversations around them.
Hello and welcome to Catalyst. Today, a conversation about NHK, which is Japan's broadcasting giant, and I'm very happy to have with us here in the studio Yasuko Takahashi, who is in charge of international distribution. She's the international distribution manager for NHK World TV. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And NHK may or may not be known to people, but I think we can help them in the next several minutes.
I hope so.
NHK has existed in Japan as a broadcaster in Japan for many, many decades.
Yes, since 1950.
And 1950, and NHK World TV is kind of the new branch on the tree. Can you tell us what the idea of NHK World TV is?
NHK World TV is an English language, a 24-hour channel. It's an international. It's just we have two international channels out of NHK. One is NHK World TV, and the other is NHK Premium. NHK World Premium is Japanese, whilst NHK World TV is fully in English. And this channel was launched 3 years ago, in 2009 February. And this is targeted at the international viewers, whilst NHK World Premium is a Japanese channel targeted at the expatriates. So it's mainly for the Japanese audience.
Now, some people may actually have noticed that NHK's Newsline program runs on RETN Channel 16, and we jumped in pretty early when NHK started distribution.
Yes, thank you.
And it branches off from the NHK service that's been in the domestic market in Japan for a long time, but in 3 years, NHK World TV has really gotten amazingly distributed.
Yes.
I assume that's not all your work, but...
well, yes, we have a small team working on worldwide distribution, and we've been working these past 3 years in distributing this channel to cable operators, satellite operators, IPTV operators all over the world. Right now we're up to over 130 countries and to 150 million households over the world.
And you're on most continents at this point, right?
Mainly, yes.
So the idea of NHK World TV is not just about Japan, though. It seems to be about Asia generally as well.
We say our catch copy is Your Eye on Asia. So our objective is to bring news from an Asian perspective. So it's not just about Japan, it's about Asia as a whole. And of course, our news programming takes up not news focused on Asia, but global news, international news. But they are reported from an Asian perspective.
And there's a lot more than just news on NHK World.
Yes,
as well.
our programming consists of live news at the top of each hour, which is sent out from our Tokyo studio, and the remaining half consists of live store programming, which includes all genres, fashion, music, current affairs, science, anime, travel, cooking, anything.
And how much of that is produced by NHK World or NHK?
100%.
100%. Wow.
So we don't have any programming from outside. It's all produced inside.
And how have you found the American market? That's your beat now, right?
Yes, we are distributed through many of the PBS stations all over the U.S. market. Of course, our aim is to go 24/7, 24-hour programming. But right now, we're still trying to work on that. But in terms of Newsline, the programming, we're penetrated in over 80% of the stations. So we're working hard.
So how does that work? Just curious. So American Public Television, APT, is the U.S. distributor.
Yes,
And
we
so
work through
stations
them.
can either choose some programs or blocks of programs?
Yes, we have a contract with APT. We feed them certain programs that they find that would be of interest to the PBS stations. So right now we have available from APT our Newsline, Asia's Forecast, Asia 7 Days, and what else? A new series called Tomorrow. So the PBS stations are able to, how do you say it, pick that that programming from APT to program into their scheduling. So it's a system that.
And you say the goal is 24/7. How would that work? Would that be on a cable system or on a second PBS channel? Or
Yes,
something
presently we're available 24 hours in Philadelphia on WYBE subchannel through megahertz in Washington, D.C., and also in New York on WRNN's subchannel, as well as on Time Warner, Comcast, and Verizon in New York. So there are several ways to be put on the subchannel, or I guess that would be the most realistic way for us to be broadcast 24 hours.
There must be a huge population of people from Japan in the United States as well. So that's where premium or premiere?
Yes, in the United States, NHK World Premium is distributed as TV Japan. The branding is different, and TV Japan has been in the market for over 10 years. So yes, many of the Japanese are receiving TV Japan. This is a premium channel, so the marketing is the strategy is different from NHK World TV.
Now, all of this, we keep mentioning NHK, and if we get nothing else clear, is that the origin is NHK, which is a major broadcasting service.
Yes, it's
in
the
the country
sole
of Japan.
public broadcaster of
So
Japan.
it's public broadcasting in Japan, and it includes radio as well as television?
Yes,
And you said that's been around since 1950.
Yes.
Radio even earlier, right?
Yes, radio in 1920s, I think.
Okay. And NHK, is it sort of a household word in Japan?
Everybody knows. It used to be a channel, a very serious channel, because it has news, and as a child, we like general commercial broadcasting better. But NHK has always been there. It's something that everybody knows.
And I have to say that the quality of the work from NHK, I mean, it is one of the premier global broadcasters in terms of quality and the depth of coverage. In Japan, you say everyone knows it and you grew up with it. You live in Tokyo now.
Yes.
The market for television in Japan, can you give us some idea of how many broadcasters there are and where NHK fits into that?
There are presently 5 commercial broadcasters, and in addition to that, there's NHK. NHK has 2 channels. One is General TV. We call it General TV, which is the big NHK channel, and we also have the educational channel, which has only educational programming. So in total, there are 7 channels that the whole market can access.
And that's for the entire country of Japan?
Yes, nationwide.
And the educational channel geared toward all different age levels at different times of day, or how does that work?
I usually don't watch it, but yes, it's all educational. So I guess during the daytime they have a lot of children's shows as well. They have science shows, very serious educational shows. So it's,
Instructional programs,
Yes.
really. And so these are, NHK is non-commercial. NHK World TV
Non-commercial.
is also non-commercial. But then there are these 5 other broadcasters who are commercial broadcasters. Is there no other non-commercial broadcasting in Japan
No,
on TV?
no.
Okay. So that brings me to when we talk about public broadcasting, the phrase that is you've used and that we use here, we think of PBS and NPR, the TV and radio organizations here. So NHK is public broadcasting in
Yes.
Japan. But the funding mechanism for that is very different from what we're used to here.
Yes.
Can you try and explain, is it called a receiver fee?
Yes, we call the system reception fees, in which we collect receiving fees from the viewers, to ask them to pay to support the operation of NHK. In 1950, like I told you, the station we were called People's TV station. So it's a TV station made by the public. So we asked the viewers to pay a certain amount of receiving fee, which is presently around $15 a month, about $180 annually. And this is not mandatory, this is voluntary. But each of the households do pay, and we collect nearly $8 billion annually, these receiving fees, and this becomes NHK's operating fee.
So so that becomes the operating budget for NHK.
Yes.
Are there other sources of revenue for NHK?
Actually, this covers around 97% of the operating fee. So 3% comes from just small other, how do you call it?
But no items in the national budget of Japan?
No, we are not government funded. So this is purely from reception fees collected from the public. But the fee is set by the government, and also our operating fee budget planning is approved by the National Diet and set by the government as well. So we're not a government-funded station, but there's a lot of involvement because we're collecting money from the public.
So that's the sense, is that because it is the public's money,
Yes.
that there is some oversight of the financial
Right.
operation.
So we view the National Diet as representing the public. So that's why our budgeting has to be approved by the National Diet.
And that's the national legislature,
Yes,
basically,
of course.
for Japan. And so this is voluntary. And what percentage of people did you say contribute, roughly?
In terms of household, I think over 80%, close to 90%. And these are paid. We have certain NHK employees who go door to door collecting, but I think many of the households pay through the bank automatically, or go to the bank, or go to
So
the
people can
convenience store.
send money,
Yes.
or they can have it as an automatic withdrawal.
Yes.
But that's in order, so it's voluntary if you have a television, and this is all broadcasting as well.
Yes.
Right, because there's not a large infrastructure for cable television, or even like here we have a lot of, I mean, not a lot, but we have some small dish satellites. Now that exists in Japan, but that's not how most people get their television, either through cable or through satellite services.
Right,
They don't get their.
I think nowadays people are starting to get those services, but I don't think Japan is yet a cable and satellite dominated market. So we still rely on broadcast TV.
And does this seems similar to what we hear of other countries in in Europe and in other places.
But I think Japan is the only country that these are collected on a mandatory basis. For example,
It's not mandatory. in
no,
Japan,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Sorry.
Right, voluntary.
Voluntary
Right,
basis.
right.
So maybe in other parts of the world, there could be a similar system, but I think it's mandatory, and they're given a certain license if they pay, and if they don't pay, their TVs get taken away, or so I've heard.
Is your sense that this is an effective mechanism for the future and the current?
For the Japanese, I think culture, it fits. And, we pay because, the viewers pay because they appreciate the service. And they will obviously stop paying if they're not satisfied with what we provide, and this has happened in the past. So we need to keep satisfying them. And I think it works.
That's quite a mandate. Yeah, important. There are times when a media organization has an opportunity to shine, and unfortunately sometimes those are not good times. And on March 11th, 2011, when the huge disaster of the earthquake and tsunami occurred in Japan, it was an obvious time to rise to the occasion. And first, before we talk about this, I want to express our heartfelt concern and our thoughts for everyone who was affected, and everyone was a huge portion of the Japanese people. But I also have to tip our hat professionally to what NHK did. We watched a lot of the Newsline coverage here and of the specials during the recovery.
Yes.
Can you begin to describe what happened as part of NHK, what kicked into motion when that whole disaster happened in 2011?
So on March 11th at 2:46 p.m. the earthquake hit, and within 2 minutes all of the NHK channels and radio switched to disaster information news. So and on NHK World TV, we usually come on live at the top of each hour, but on that day we came on live at 2:57, I think, 3 minutes before 3, and we were showing live images of the disaster. So within 10 minutes after the actual earthquake hit. And NHK came into operation just minutes within the actual occurrence of the earthquake, and this is because the news department is trained for this kind of disasters, especially for earthquakes, because Japan is so used to having these earthquakes. And the anchors, the news staff they do a drill, we call it a drill, every night. And this is
Every night?
Every night.
Every night.
And so they go into position for, I think these drills paid off because on March 11th last year, everybody got into position right away. There was no panic, everybody was calm, but this scale of disaster was something that we never experienced, but because they were trained, every single day, it all, I think, paid off. And even the anchors are giving a certain manual as to what kind of words to use when reporting this, so that they don't create panic in the viewers, because NHK usually, viewers' instincts are to turn to NHK when an earthquake comes, because that's NHK will give us out the most accurate information in terms of the statistics for the earthquake. So we have to give very accurate information, as well as we don't need to create panic in them. So certain words are not to be used, and the tone of voice is kept very quiet and low, so that viewers, we don't create any panic in the viewers.
Well, it's a fascinating position and the anchor for NHK World, Gene Otani, I believe, goes on live.
Yes.
Your script is gone. You're improvising, and the ability to. I mean, we've seen it with disasters here in America when different types of things have happened, but the scale of this, like you said, it really is an amazing feat to have both those on-air personalities
Yes.
and then the technical infrastructure. Can you talk a little bit about what
Yes.
kicked into motion during this?
I think all of the international news, as well as broadcast channels, were able to have access to our images of the tsunami, which live from the actual happening. These images came from, we have, I think, 460 weather cameras, we call, which are located nationwide. And these cameras played an important role in giving out these very accurate, scary images of the tsunami swallowing up the whole land. And at the same time, we have helicopters, again, nationwide. And there were 12 helicopters in the region. And the last helicopter that departed, that took off from Sendai Airport, was actually the last aircraft that was able to depart from that airport before the tsunami took over, swallowed the whole airport.
Right, because that was right in that
Yes.
was in the
So
main
it was just seconds away.
region that was hit.
So that helicopter was able to capture vast image of all that that was happening, and that was what everybody was receiving here, the images. So all our resources, all our training, I think everything paid off well in this case.
What kind of numbers of people are you talking about at NHK to cover that scale of an event?
I was told that up to 500 to 600 staff from Tokyo were sent to the devastated areas in Tohoku region within 2 or 3 days of the disaster, and which means that in total there were about 1,000 staff, NHK staff only, working in the region covering these reports. And I think the total coverage was 550 hours, disaster coverage. The network was on live for 24 hours for 7 consecutive days after that. So we, as viewers, were hooked on the news as well.
And certainly NHK was the eyes of the world
Yes.
on this. Is that kind of training for this sort of an event done anywhere else in the world?
I don't think so.
I've never heard of it.
And I think, although we're not like a governmental channel, it's our obligation. We have a mission to protect the public. So our channel is supposed to act as the information lifeline in times of these. And this is like our main mission. So I think the drill still goes on every single day now.
And you mentioned the weather cameras. That's a network that NHK has normally in operation.
It's remote controlled from Tokyo. So
How many cameras?
I heard 460 nationwide.
But these are good quality cameras, so
Yes.
basically they could remote control them from Tokyo,
Yes.
anywhere in the country.
And I also heard that in times the training includes if Tokyo was hit by the earthquake and NHK is out of operation, the NHK Tokyo Operations Center, they are able to switch off to Osaka right away. So I think we are constantly preparing for these kinds of disasters.
And the helicopter fleet, is that NHK's normal fleet of helicopters that they use
Yes,
for coverage?
we have, I don't know the total number nationwide, but we have a certain number of helicopters that are always on standby for anything that happens. So But the helicopter that took off from Sendai was quite dramatic because it was really seconds after the water was right below them when they took off. So.
Is there any way that NHK is now sharing this knowledge of how to do this or the importance of it with the rest of the world?
You mean?
Now, a year later, a year plus later?
Yes, we've been doing these kind of presentations, reporting, presentations on the reporting of the disaster, mainly in the U.S. regions. I've been traveling to conferences, PBS conferences, APT conferences, and we took the opportunity to bring our anchors who were actually involved in this reporting and have them speak the experience, so that our objective is not to show off what we did, but so that the lessons we learn can be shared with the world as well.
Well, it's fascinating, and I appreciate you sharing this with us. We look forward to the new developments with NHK World TV, and certainly we hope that we can have many other things that are not disasters also to talk about. But Yasuko Takahashi, I appreciate you spending some time with us, and we look forward to many more programs.
My pleasure.
NHK.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Catalyst and for this conversation about NHK in Japan.